Clapperboard, Sam and Caitriona's goodbye. The Outlander era finally comes to an end. A grey fog blanketed the outskirts of Glasgow on an early September morning as the Outlander crew entered the final days of filming. Inside the old stone house on the Cumbernauld set, the yellow light cast a glow across walls that had been repainted many times over the past 8 years. Footsteps, cameras preparing, laughter and sighs, all blended together, like a final song before the lights went out. "This will be Jamie and Claire's last scene," the director shouted over the loudspeaker. "Ready?" Sam Heughan, tousled red hair, focused eyes, stood silently, staring through the camera lens. Caitriona Balfe, wearing a faded grey linen dress, sat opposite him. They said nothing. The crew was dead silent. This was their last scene in a series that has lasted more than a decade. No one on the set could believe that Outlander, the series that had changed Scottish television and turned its 2 lead actors into global icons, was about to end. Amidst the lights and the sound of cameras, the director shouted, "Action!" Sam stepped closer to Caitriona, his hands shaking slightly. She looked at him, her eyes both determined and sad. Without a word, they just looked at each other. Their eyes told the story of all the years Jamie and Claire had lived, loved, and lost. When "cut" sounded, no one spoke for a few seconds. Then a round of applause broke out. Caitriona shed tears. Sam smiled, but his eyes were red. "And that's the last scene," the director announced. "Outlander is officially finished." The sound exploded. The crew hugged. The cameras were lowered. The technicians who had been with the show for nearly a decade looked around, as if they had just woken from a long dream. A 10-year journey, and 2 inseparable people. The break room backstage is filled with flowers, handwritten letters, and behind-the-scenes photos from 2013. There's a picture of Sam and Caitriona laughing during the first scene in Inverness, a picture of them standing in the middle of a storm in season 5, and moments off camera, making coffee together, learning Gaelic, reading lines in pouring rain. "I remember the first day I met Sam," Caitriona said in a fictional interview with the Highland Times. "He was holding the script, his hands shaking. I thought he was nervous, but then I realized, he was just in character too much." Sam laughs, "And I think she's perfect for Claire. But it's also a little scary. Kat has that look in her eyes that you can't lie to." They laugh together. But underneath that smile is a quiet sadness, the sadness of people who are about to lose a part of their soul. For 10 years, they've been through it all. Harsh Scottish winters, 3 a.m. shoots, awards, global promotions. But most of all, they've become Jamie and Claire, not just on screen, but in the hearts of millions of fans. "Sometimes I can't tell if I'm Sam or Jamie," he says. "When I walk off set, I can still hear the sound of horses' hooves and the Highland wind." Caitriona says more quietly, "Leaving Outlander is like leaving a long-term relationship. You know it has to end, but your heart refuses to accept it." A farewell party in a rainy Scottish night. That night, the crew held a farewell party in an old barn decorated with yellow lights and behind-the-scenes photos. Outside, a light rain fell. Inside, Gaelic music played, a slow version of the Sky Boat song, as a farewell. On the small stage, director Fiona MacLeod raised her glass, to 10 years of friendship, of love, and of a television legend. To Sam, to Kat, and to all of us, the audience raised their glasses. Sam and Caitriona sat side by side, silently. When the applause died down, Kat pulled a small envelope from her pocket and handed it to him. "For you," she said. Sam opened it. Inside was a photo of their first scene together, Jamie looking down at Claire, a woman lost in time, in the dim light of Inverness. On the back of the photo, she wrote, "Thank you for believing in me, even if it was just for acting. Thank you for being my friend, during the time when I needed it most. Goodbye, Jamie. And goodbye, Sam, who made it all possible." He smiled, but couldn't say anything. He just placed his hand on the photo, then on her shoulder. "I'll keep it forever." They hugged, not as co-stars, but as two people who had been through a decade of memories, of glory, of rain and snow, of laughter and tears on screen and off. Then Sam stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. "We told a story of love that transcended time," he said, his voice cracking. "And now, as the story ends, I just want to say, I have never felt so lucky to have lived in the skin of Jamie Fraser, with my Claire." The room fell silent, then erupted into the longest applause of the night, a farewell to the fans. 2 weeks after filming wrapped, Entertainment Weekly published a special interview. On the cover was a picture of Sam and Caitriona standing in the middle Scottish fog, hand in hand, distant gaze. Title: When Jamie and Claire said goodbye. In the piece, they shared their final moments, unforgettable scenes, and a friendship that became legendary. "There were rainy days when we just looked at each other and didn't need to say anything," Sam said. "We understood that Outlander was more than just a job, it was a part of our lives. We grew together," Caitriona added. "From two strangers to people who understood each other better than anyone else. Not because of romance, but because of commitment." They also talked about the future. Sam is set to star in a new action film, Caitriona is back with her directorial debut. But both admit, it won't replace Outlander. At the end of the interview, when asked about how he would feel if he returned to the Central Highlands one day, Sam replied, "I think he'll hear the sound of trumpets, and in the mist, he'll see Claire's shadow come back and smile. Then he'll know that I've returned to a part of that time," Caitriona said simply. "Every story has to end, but there are loves, even on film, that live forever." When the legend returns, on the day the final episode aired, social media exploded. Hashtags #Thank You Outlander and #Goodbye Jamie and Claire flooded the bridge. Millions of fans shared their favorite moments, words of gratitude, handwritten letters to the crew. In Scotland, people held public outdoor celebrations. When the final scene ended, Jamie and Claire standing on a hilltop, hand in hand, looking out at the valley where it all began, readers fell silent, then burst into tears. Sam and Caitriona, who were in London, watched each other in a private room. When the screen went black, they said nothing. There was only a sigh, then Kat said softly, "It's over." Sam nodded. "No," he said. "We've just finished a chapter. The story lives on in everyone's hearts," she smiled. "And in our hearts." Outside, the rain fell gently, just like the day they shot their first scene, 10 years ago.